After trading Donovan Mitchell to the Cleveland Cavaliers, it is very clear that the Utah Jazz are in fire sale mode, meaning they still want to move on from some other star players within their organization, and some other teams could make a big play to trade for them, and that's where the Raptors can come in here, needing some additional bench scoring. In this video, we're going to cover how the Raptors could potentially make a steal of a trade to acquire former Sixth Man of the Year, Jordan Clarkson. Let's get into it. What's going on, NBA and Raptors fans? It's Jacob here, back with Amateur Sports for another Toronto Raptors YouTube video. On this channel, I bring you the greatest coverage and analysis on the latest Toronto Raptors news. I'm doing it all throughout the offseason, so if you like what you see from today's video, make sure you are subscribed to the channel, and you can help us on our road to 12,000 subscribers. Also, be sure to drop a like on this video if you find yourself enjoying. Let's try to get to 250 likes on today's video again. I know that we are capable of doing it, but let's get into our content for today. We want to talk about the Raptors potentially making a swoop for one of the star players in the Utah Jazz system in Jordan Clarkson, because like I mentioned in the intro, the Utah Jazz made their ambitions clear. I mean, it was very clear to everyone when they traded Rudy Gobert for that boatload of picks from the Minnesota Timberwolves. It was very clear at that point that the Utah Jazz were looking at Victor Wembanyama and Scoot Henderson more so. They wanted to tank pretty much. But people were saying, oh, they still have Donovan Mitchell. Just because they traded Gobert doesn't necessarily mean they're going to trade Donovan Mitchell. But like, yeah, they were going to trade Donovan Mitchell. And eventually they did. They got tired of waiting out the New York Knicks, ended up trading him to the Cleveland Cavaliers in a really good trade for the Cavaliers. But we're looking at the Utah Jazz right now, and it's a fire sale right now. They still have some good players within that team that did make the playoffs last year. I know they lost in 6, but hey, Donovan Mitchell's gone, but they still have some decent quality in Bojan Bogdanovic. We did cover in a previous video in terms of the Raptors potentially trading for the player. Spoiler alert, let's not do that. But now we want to look at another player within that organization like Jordan Clarkson. Mike Conley is another one who could be on the board. A little bit too much money in Mike Conley in terms of contracts. So I want to focus on Jordan Clarkson. This is a player that Raptors fans have kind of sneakily had their eyes on for a number of years now. Not in the sense that we think that we're going to trade for him, in the sense that we're looking at Jordan Clarkson like this is really a type of player that we need within our organization. Now might be the time to actually make that happen, because I imagine at this point, again, Utah Jazz in tank mode, there could be a fire sale right now, and Jordan Clarkson could be one of the players and should be one of the players available for trade. So in this video, we want to cover what sort of role Jordan Clarkson would have with the Toronto Raptors, what the Raptors would ultimately have to give up in order to make this trade happen, and finish with the overall thought. Both those things in conjunction. Is it worth it for the Raptors to go and pull the trigger on a trade like this? So let's discuss the fit for Jordan Clarkson here. Last season, the Raptors were extremely impressive, winning 48 games. They're the 5th seed in the Eastern Conference in what was supposed to be a transition year. We were supposed to transition from that tank season, look to develop, look to improve, see what you get out of Scottie Barnes, and well, yeah, overachieved expectations. Scottie Barnes won Rookie of the Year. Expectations are a lot higher going into this season. But last season, we had all this success in spite of the fact that our bench really didn't offer us much, especially in the scoring department. So immediately bringing in Jordan Clarkson drastically improves the bench scoring. In the 2020-2021 season, Jordan Clarkson was the 6th man of the year. So yeah, if you want scoring off of your bench, you can look to a guy who won the 6th man of the year award 2 years ago. And now I know, looking at Clarkson, took a little bit of a regression last season, dropped from above 18 points per game down to 16 points per game. His efficiency also took a little bit of a sharp decrease here, down to just over 40% shooting from the field, only about 32% shooting from 3, despite being up at 34.7 the year before. Maybe that wasn't so sustainable, and maybe he can find a bounce back year, but that's another thing that should tank his value a little bit in terms of the trade markets. Nonetheless, we know how good of a player Jordan Clarkson is and how good he can be for the Raptors, because scoring off the bench is a problem. This is a guy who is going to score off the bench. Another thing, the Raptors don't really have a lot of these players that can create opportunities for themselves in the mid-range. Pascal Siakam is one who really excelled in the mid-range last season. I believe he shot above 45% from mid-range, and for an analytical sort of snob like myself, that fits the bill of somebody who can continue to do that. And for Siakam, he's got to shoot those shots so that the defense respects it and he can get easier looks at the rim and potentially easier looks at 3. Other guys like OG and Fred VanVleet should stay away from the mid-range shot creation. Jordan Clarkson can definitely come in and provide that sort of shooting. Also, he can provide shooting from outside the arc, help space the floor. We don't have a lot of floor space on our bench. Certainly, we helped ourselves in the offseason by acquiring Otto Porter Jr., who can score a little bit off the bench, who can space the floor quite a lot off of the bench. Jordan Clarkson would take that bench game to a whole new level, and we could stop any sort of debate of how to maximize that great starting five that we have on our team in Fred, Gary, OG, Barnes, and Siakam. A lot of talent there. Not all of them are going to get the right touches here and there, but hey, we can space these guys out, run a 9-man rotation, and really get the most out of all of these players. Jordan Clarkson, like, this is the perfect archetype. This is your prototypical 6-man. This is your prototypical guy because of the way he can score at 3 levels. Not a great defender, but also, not the worst defender either. When you're bringing in a 6-man, like, you want a guy who's going to get buckets. Jordan Clarkson is a player who gets buckets. The Raptors could bring this player in and put him as the 6-man. But now we need to talk about what you'd actually have to give up in order to bring Jordan Clarkson in, because I don't want to go too in-depth on Clarkson, the player, because we know so much about him. We know he's a talented player. Yes, there maybe was a little bit of regression last season, but I still have faith in the player. I don't think we need to go super in-depth on what kind of player he is. We know Jordan Clarkson's game. He would work well with the Raptors. For these trade markets, I actually found an article from Sports Illustrated that kind of outlined a potential trade that the Raptors could make here, and I'm not really a fan of it. When you're looking at the Utah Jazz right now, they are hunting down first-round picks. Danny Ainge is hunting down first-round picks. Made it clear when he got 4 plus technically a 5th from the Minnesota Timberwolves. Made it clear when he got 3 from the Cleveland Cavaliers, plus 2 pick swaps, plus technically another first-round pick with getting the player that was drafted in the first round this year. So he wants picks. The Raptors have all the draft picks they can give. Like, they can give any of their draft picks. They hold all of their draft capital, which is great when pivoting for a trade. And I don't think you're going to need multiple to land Jordan Clarkson here. 1 pick might be able to get this done. As far as the protections, you're not going to give up an unprotected first-round pick in order to land Jordan Clarkson, but a protected first-round pick plus some other assets could potentially make this trade happen. How badly do the Raptors want to give away a first in order to acquire Jordan Clarkson on an expiring deal? I'm not so sure. Jordan Clarkson, I believe, makes this team better, and his contract is extremely team-friendly. He's making about $12.5 million this season, only on a rental. Next year, he has a player option worth about $14.5 million. I really don't think he's going to take on that player option, as he'll be looking to get a longer contract on more money as well. So you're going to get him for a year. That's not necessarily the worst thing, because you don't have to pay him for too long. And as far as the value there, an unprotected first might get this done. Do the Raptors want to sacrifice that for Jordan Clarkson for a single season? That will be the question. Any other way we can make this trade happen? Well, let's take a look at the Sports Illustrated article that I was referencing here. And I do not like the trade that they have in mind for the Raptors. Obviously, you have to give up something to get Clarkson. The Jazz are going to definitely be looking for a pick, but if you can avoid giving a pick, you have to give away an asset that has value. And for this article, the asset with value was Precious Achiuwa. The trading question would have Precious Achiuwa, Malachi Flynn, who I'm not really concerned about trading here. I'm not buying into all the hype from these pro-am performances. I think there is a space for him in the league where he can be successful. Maybe the Raptors isn't the right place for him, but I'm not going to really bat my eyes too much at that one. And Khem Birch is going to also be involved in this trade, this mock trade in question here. Khem Birch doesn't really have a role with the Raptors, in my opinion, anymore, unless there are injuries. I'd be pretty shocked if he wasn't traded as salary filler at some point down the line in his Raptors career. But this could be the trade to make that happen, but you also have to give up Precious Achiuwa to do it. Now let's discuss Precious Achiuwa and his sort of fit. So I think a possible solution to the Raptors and their lack of bench scoring, and I mentioned it about a month ago, maybe even weeks ago, I don't know. Time is just a broken concept for me at this point in my life. But at some point I talked about maybe putting in Achiuwa into the starting lineup and putting Gary Trent Jr. on the bench. And I feel like I'm in the minority that thinks that this is a good idea. You want extra bench scoring, and you feel like the starting 5 aren't all maximizing their true output, because there are 5 good players in that starting 5, great players in that starting lineup who all need their touches to kind of thrive here. So what we can do instead is put Achiuwa in there, who's a more complementary piece, can be the 5th man. And I stress, the theory of the 5th man, how important the 5th man is to a team. Achiuwa can be that 5th man. Then you bring in your scoring off the bench. Gary Trent Jr., maybe a little bit more off leash when he's on the bench, can do a little bit more. Maybe he can add in a little bit more scoring. And that's not a downgrade for Gary's role. He's going to be leading the line on the bench. He's going to be the top scorer off the bench, and he's going to be fighting for the Sixth Man of the Year award. Look at Tyler Hero last season, how well he was as a sixth man, and the money that he's potentially about to get after winning the Sixth Man of the Year award. Gary Trent can do that as well. So Achiuwa fitting into that starting lineup maybe kind of balances out a little bit better. Gary Trent Jr. coming off the bench provides us the bench scoring that we need, and I don't think we'd falter too much from a starting five standpoint in terms of scoring with Gary Trent Jr. coming off the bench. Also, just because he's coming off the bench doesn't mean he can't close the games as well. So as it comes to the trading question for Jordan Clarkson, like, yes, this would be a great player. I'd love to have him on our team. I'm not even that concerned about the 1-year rental on his contract. Like, I think having him for a season would be kind of worth it here. Not for Precious Achiuwa. If Precious Achiuwa is involved, that's where I have to draw the line, because Achiuwa, like, this could be your big man for the future for years and years down the line. Like, we can hold on to Precious Achiuwa for a number of years now. He's still on his rookie contract. We can be the team to extend him, give him not necessarily a lucrative extension, but a lengthy extension. Like, we want to develop this core with Precious Achiuwa part of it. We've discussed the core as Siakam, VanVleet, Barnes, and Anunoby and Trent. I think it's time that we add Achiuwa as the sixth player to that core. I don't think he's the one that you should be trading in this situation. Still so young and so much to develop. Like, he really dialed in as a three-point shooter and developed so much over the course of that regular season that we saw last season, and even into the playoffs where he was going toe-to-toe with Joel Embiid and holding his own. That's not a player I'm willing to trade. As far as a draft pick, I'd consider trading a protected pick. I don't know how much you'd have to do to actually balance out the salaries. Obviously, Kem Birch can be involved there. Maybe Juancho Hernan-Gomez, when you're allowed to trade him. Maybe that could be somebody that's involved in order to balance out the books here, but I'm not sure Utah are going to be going for that. I think they're going to be looking for the best picks available. I don't know if the Raptors have that, so I want to make this trade. I don't want to give away a core piece. If we're not going to give away a core piece, then it's going to be very difficult to happen. But if we can get like Kem Birch, Juancho, another cheap contract, and get Jordan Clarkson, that's a trade that I would do, and I would consider that a steal of a trade as well. So what do you guys make of the Raptors' reported interest in trading for Jordan Clarkson? What sort of trade would you want to see? What sort of trade would you not want to see? Let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comments down below, because that is it for me for today. Thanks so much for watching this video. Please drop a like if you did enjoy. It goes a long way to supporting the channel. And make sure, for the greatest coverage and analysis on the latest Toronto Raptors news, you are subscribed to Amateur Sports. Had a big announcement on my Twitter yesterday. Proud to announce that I'm joining the Hammer Betting Network, a media company dedicated to sports betting content. And on this network, I am going to be producing and creating my own show for Raptors betting content. Not everybody wants to bet, not everybody likes betting, but some of you out there may enjoy that content. That will be ready for the next NBA regular season, and I'm excited to bring you more Raptors content to Amateur Hour Productions. I'll also be producing more shows, and I'll be involved in some other shows, some soccer betting shows as well on the network. You can check out more information on my Twitter, or feel free to reach out to me personally for any additional questions that you may have. But I'm excited to create some more content for you. If you're a fan of Amateur Hour, you're a fan of me, this is good news, so I'm going to be expanding my reach on content to new levels. We'll see you again next time for another video.